This is Eat, Sleep, Invest, the marketing podcast for real estate investors to get more deals.
Yeah. One other thing, too, from an SEO standpoint, when you go on a podcast, if your website link is in those show notes, it's distributed on iTunes, all the different channels there, too. So you do get a byproduct even just from getting links to your website. So
not just that, but every single interview is titled differently. And so I don't know if you've ever, run a press release or something through one of those marketing companies that'll put you on like Yahoo Finance or something like that. There are lots of people that are getting their, a quote feature on these various online platforms, but it's really a pay-to-play press release, and it gets distributed to 300, websites that may or may not take it down after a month, but it's always the same title. Whereas if you do 10 podcasts, they're all going to be completely unique. Your conversation could be fairly similar, but the pack links are all unique. And, especially for anyone raising money or someone that has to worry about what their credibility looks like, being able to have SEO results that isn't just what you wrote about yourself on your website and what you wrote about yourself on your LinkedIn and having your Instagram come up, these like unique conversations coming up showing that you are a subject matter expert is really powerful.
That's a good point too, because people dealing with you will Google your name, and if they're gonna see your website, your Facebook, but if they see 4 more things with different videos talking to different people, it's like, oh, this guy must know what he's talking about.
I love looking at people's websites. I'm like, man, they are really complimentary about themselves in their bio. It's nice to see when someone else can affirm it though.
Right. So okay. So say we have a big audience of real estate investors, and I know everyone's busy, right? Say someone wants to start getting onto podcasts. Where do they even start? Like, do they start emailing podcasts or look them up, or what would someone do if they wanted to do this on their own?
Yeah, I mean, obviously being able to interact with people on like Instagram or something like that in the DMs is a great way just to get to know people. But if you're going to go the traditional route of like cold outreach through email or something like that, it's really important that you have that value proposition laid out. You can't go to any show and say, I can talk about the BRRRR strategy. I can talk about flipping. I can talk about marketing. Like everybody that's been on the show can talk about those things. What is it you're doing that in your strategy that's either different and giving you an edge over other people? What have you found that is unique? Or sometimes it is repackaging not old ideas, but already used ideas with a new type of case study or a new way of looking at it. Example of that being like I did have a wholesaler that had been doing deals for about a year. And so like, his business wasn't massive. We had to figure out how are we going to get him attention. And at one point he mentioned that he had $100,000 in wholesale fees come in while he was on vacation. And so it wasn't because he had some like groundbreaking, technology or something like that. He hired well. He had good systems and 3 well-trained employees. And so that was able, every real estate show is going to bring up systems once a quarter, every 2 months or something. It's how do you do it in a sexy way that isn't forced. And so being able to use the case study of like, when you do this, you too can be on vacation and still have $100,000 in fees come in and you're not working for it. That was how we were able to get him some attention, is just repackaging that old idea into a new, into something that was a little bit, catchy. And so that figuring out what that is for you, that's really important. Someone in the commercial space said to me, they were talking about how much commercial space they have. And he's like, we have however many hundred thousands of square feet in warehouse space. And he's like, you know how many toilets I would have to be in charge of if that was multifamily? And I was like, whoa, like lots of people understand the benefits and pros and cons of both types. That's why they decide to get into whichever one they're in. But I was like, just thinking about that one thing, you have so much less plumbing to deal with that amount of warehouse space versus multifamily. And that's what did it for him. That's why he's like, I want to be in commercial. And I'm like, that's a perspective that maybe to someone that's listening to the show that doesn't know where they want to go would really value. And like, do I want tenants? Do I want to deal with toilets, that need to be, unclogged or whatever, whatever else goes wrong in multifamily? And that was just like one thing. And that in an interview could be the whole 60 seconds that makes the whole interview worth it for the person listening.
So are you saying whenever if you're going to do the cold outreach approach, when you outreach, have these specific things that make you different in the email.
Yeah, and again, it doesn't always have to be this groundbreaking thing. It's just a way of looking at it that is going to stand out from other people. I was telling you before this, one of the people you had on your show that I work with is Jerome Maldonado, and they are taking warehouse space that they own and filling it with e-commerce brands that they own, which increases the value of the commercial property while they're also making money from the e-commerce side. Now, plenty of people have talked about buying strip malls and putting in a hair salon or a laundromat or something like that to stabilize their own property. These guys are doing it with like Radio Shack and Pier 1 Imports, these businesses they bought in bankruptcy, and like these huge brands, and doing it in such a bigger, a massive way that like, it's that was just one perspective I've never really heard someone talk about, is how you could do it on this larger scale besides just filling in, a unit with someone or filling in a vacant spot with a business that you started. And so, yeah, it's, again, it wasn't new. It's just the way they're doing it is different than other people.
Right. Now, so say someone's going to do cold outreach and they email wherever, and then, hey, my name's whatever. We're like, what do they, like, I know I have a bio, and then eventually I found one being on a guest too. I put like 30 questions after too. It's like, okay, here's my bio. Here's what I'm good at. Here are some questions that I can answer, things like that to kind of tee them up. Even being a host, like when I have people on, it's nice when people give me questions.
Yep.
Because I don't know some of the people coming on personally. So, but what do you think people can do to get the highest hit rate on people coming back and saying, yeah, we'd like to have you as a guest on our podcast?
Yeah, so every pitch I have starts off with, I'm reaching out about so-and-so being on so-and-so show to discuss, and then I list the 2 to 3 leading topics. And I do it that way because, like, you only have so many words before you lose someone's attention. If you can get their attention in the beginning, they'll read a long email and a long bio if you got their attention in the first sentence. And I'm telling you, my thing might be 3 lines on an email and it's one long run-on sentence, but it's providing value right up front. And so, I'm not leading with the person's name or their bio. It's what value are they going to bring? And my subject line is the same thing too. How to avoid the costly pitfalls that every investor finds themselves in with so-and-so. I don't lead with their name. I don't lead with a podcast submission just because I think some people might automatically just throw those out if they don't think that they need somebody. But a host doesn't know what they don't know until they don't know who they're missing out on until they read it. So these are just the little things I've picked up on 15 years of doing cold outreach and getting in touch with people that I didn't really need to be responding to me initially until I showed them the value I had. But I also think it's important, don't waste your words on the things that provide no value. And like, you can be a proud father of 3 and love biking on the weekends, but it provides no value in this immediate instance. Maybe it can come up in the conversation about why you do what you do, but in trying to get a host's attention, it doesn't bring value. If you're an ultra marathoner, maybe that's a little bit different. It should really show some dedication. It's something that's interesting. But if it's just your hobbies and stuff like that, there's so many bios I'm sent where I cut the stuff about family and where they live just out of it. It's not valuable in that instance.